Lindy had another a permit to withdraw 1 million gallons. They didn't, but they had the permit to withdraw. It was a big concern for Trout Unlimited. What you have to understand is we welcome that water because the thermocline for trout to keep a temperature, this water is going to be introduced into the Lackawanna River at the same temperature or lower, which will push the cold water fishery further downstream. Only 21 miles of the Lackawanna River is Class A wild trout. We'd like to see it extended 7 miles further downstream to Old Forge. And one of the ways that we're going to achieve that is by having excess water being pumped in the summertime when we need water into the river and at a temperature which is going to help us keep the thermal temperature down. So to Trout Unlimited, local Trout Unlimited, this additional $600,000 is going to help benefit the trout population in the Lackawanna River.
They're withdrawing 4 million gallons.
They're not withdrawing water from the Lackawanna River. When we were first asked, a year and a half or 2 years ago, we were asked to have a conference, the LRCA, Trout Unlimited, and representatives from Invenergy.
2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago? A year and a half ago, sir? Is that what you said? A year and a half ago?
I'm not sure. Was it about a year and a half ago? Last year. Last August.
Hi, my name's Ernest. I'm from Einan, but my ancestors are from Rubio, as many of your ancestors are. Interestingly, Cannon Falls Energy Center was brought up, and the host agreement was mentioned in relationship to the environment. The environment at Cannon Falls in 2005, the school board voted against the proposal. Although it appeared dead, they hired Erlinson and Burt, who is a public relations organization, to come up with tactics to turn that, and they did. And we're about 5 into the check marks. We're at open community meetings. If anybody wants to read this, you're free to have it. I've heard there's 2 companies involved here. Invenergy, which is a private company, and I believe that's owned by a fellow named Michael Polsky. Is that correct?
He's the founder,
yes. There's also another one called Lackawanna Energy Center. Is that correct, the name? And that's a Delaware corporation, so they won't be liable for any PA income tax. Is that also owned by Mr. Polsky?
That's an affiliate of Invenergy.
Oh, a tax-free affiliate.
This could be a yes or no answer here. Maybe Frank might know the answer to this. Are you aware that Mr. Polsky contributed in excess of $157,000 to political campaigns, according to public records, and that 90% of that went to Democratic candidates?
I got it, thank you.
Sorry?
I said, I wish it was mine.
Well, it might be if you get this proof. Next question is, Grays Harbor Energy Center in Washington is another Invenergy plant. It's on a 620 megawatts, and it occupies 20 acres. I understand this plant is going to operate at 1,500 megawatts and 80 acres. That's 4 times what they're doing for a 620 megawatt facility. Is there any plan to have additional generation capacity put there once if your plan is approved?
Put here, this site?
Yes.
No.
So this plant needs 4 times the size of the land for roughly 3 times the energy?
Well, I don't know that your numbers are correct. I'm very
I got it
clever,
from your
right?
website.
No, I mean the acreage.
Well, how many acres are you building on up there?
On where, here?
Here.
What I'm saying is, I don't know how many acres Grace Harbor is. I don't know if your number's correct or not. I don't know where you got that
I
in.
got that from your website.
So here, you know, the footprint of the site is roughly, of the actual power plant is roughly 40 acres, 45. The overall project size, I think, is 70, about 75, the overall acreage. And what we buy on the acreage is something different than the footprint of the power plant.
The last thing I want to mention is this. We've heard property values talked about, and some people think that it's just not going to affect them. And we have the Davis study that there was a piece of paper handed out saying it probably doesn't apply here. The question I have is, do you have any studies that show these types of facilities increase property value?
No,
No.
I guess all the effort was just
So
discredited.
I guess if you really want to do some research on whether the property values will go up or down, I suggest we get a couple of people to take a picture of the site as it is now, which has no coal plant on it. They compare this one to a coal plant. They need to compare it to an empty field. Let's take a picture of the, let's take a picture of the empty field and a picture of the power plant and go to the mall and we'll ask people, do you want to live next to this or do you want to live next to that?
Thank you, Attorney Kane. My name is Bob Munley. I reside at 806 Martin Drive in Jessup, and I am a member of the Citizens for Healthy Jessup. I would just like to, can everyone hear me? I would just like to reflect on what this young lady, the question that she asked 10 or 15 minutes ago about the toxic waste that they're using in the fracking fluid. Well, the fact of the matter is, and this is not an expert of opinion, they are exempt from divulging those chemicals that they use. No one knows but them. It's fine. And if Mr. Farina or anyone else here can tell me that I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it. I read that numerous times. They do not have to divulge. They're exempt from that. For whatever reason, I think it's terrible that that's the case. And the fact of the matter is, there are residues that break these barriers. Anytime you want to read anything on fracking, you will see that. There needs to be a lot more precautionary measures taken by the Marcellus Shell Company. They need to protect the people better. And, you know, that's just aside from that question that you answered. And if I'm wrong, I would offer one of the panel to tell me that I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And I would like to, Dan, I find you to be a very nice man. You're always very polite. But I asked you a question a month ago. I mentioned that there was a lot of methane gas, natural gas, and for some reason, no one wants to say natural gas. Everybody says, I'm sorry, no one wants to say methane gas. The reference is always natural gas, because natural gas sounds better. It sends a perception out that it's much cleaner. But the fact of the matter is, Dan, you know, and everyone else here knows, natural gas is made by 85 to 90% methane gas, but that is never mentioned. And we all know that the emissions that come from methane gas are devastating to the environment. Just for number one, you have a cloud. Methane gas attracts millions of mosquitoes that you would not have here hadn't that been in the area. What comes with that? You have an increase in West Nile virus, you have an increase in Lyme disease, and these are coming from documented readings that I read that were written by professional medical doctors, scientists of the environment. It's not just hearsay, nor it is my assumption, or, you know, it's certainly, because I am not an expert in that area. But these are written by experts. Now, you could talk to any doctor of pulmonary medicine. I live about 3/4 of a mile away from this structure, the proposed plant. Myself, my wife, my main concern, everyone's concerned about the property devaluation. My main concern is not property devaluation, because I don't plan on selling my home unless I'm literally forced to sell it. I've lived in Jessup all my life, and I raised my children in Jessup, and I love Jessup. But here's the deal. The fact of the matter is, once this plant comes in here, we have literally ballparks within 1/4 of a mile. You could talk to, I called the department, the American Logging Association. Now, if somebody here wants to tell me that what they, what they said to me is untrue, please do so. There is a definite link between these carbon emissions that are coming out of these stacks, the 3 that's going to have literally tons and tons of carbon per day. Where does that go? It's in the atmosphere. Everyone knows that. We are not, we are educated people in this town. You know, another thing is, for some reason, these type of industries do not go to more affluent areas. They come to areas like Jessup with the good people that lived here their whole lives, that people back when I was a child, the mining industry was where people made their money. They worked the mines simply because they had no other alternative. They had to work the mines because if not, they did not feed their children. So miners went in, they did what they had to do, they fed their children, but what happened? Everyone knows.